Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we blend, casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets. Today, we're diving headfirst into the automotive industry.
Okay.
Electric vehicles, self-driving cars.
Yeah.
It seems like every day there's a new headline.
Right.
So we're going to unpack some of Tesla's ambitious plans for the coming year and see what they might mean for the future of how you get from point A to point B.
All right. Sounds good. Well, what's fascinating here is that Tesla is projecting a growth of 20 to 30%.
Wow.
They're aiming for higher volume with a focus on more affordable electric vehicles.
Okay, so more EVs for the everyday driver.
Right.
But does that mean Tesla's just going to slash prices and hope for the best?
Well,
Is that all it takes to win over the market?
not quite. Simply offering a cheaper version of their existing models might not cut it.
Okay.
Think about it. Even when it comes to cars, people are drawn to novelty, sleek designs, those cool features that make them stand out.
Yeah. So even with a hypothetical $25,000 EV, Tesla can't just rest on affordability.
Exactly. They need to balance those desires for affordability with the things that excite consumers.
Okay.
Performance, maybe a touch of luxury,
Uh-huh.
a unique driving experience. Remember, car purchases are often driven by emotion and brand loyalty.
Yeah.
It's not always a purely rational decision.
That's so true. It's like choosing a phone.
Right.
Sure, it needs to make calls, but we also want it to look good, have all the latest apps,
Yeah.
maybe even make us feel a little bit cooler.
Precisely. And that's what makes Tesla's strategy so intriguing.
Okay.
They're trying to appeal to both the practical and the aspirational sides of the consumer. It's a delicate balancing act.
Speaking of balancing acts, let's talk about self-driving cars.
Okay.
Tesla's full self-driving system has been, let's just say, controversial.
Right.
Where does this fit into their grand vision?
Well, self-driving technology is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
If perfected, it could completely change the way we think about transportation. Imagine a world where your commute becomes productive work time.
Wow, yeah.
Or long road trips feel like short hops.
That does sound amazing. In theory.
Yeah.
But are people really ready to give up control? What about safety concerns? I mean, letting a car drive itself still feels like something out of a sci-fi movie?
You've hit on a crucial point.
Okay.
Public acceptance is key for this technology to really take off.
Yeah.
Addressing those concerns about safety, establishing clear regulations, and building trust are all critical.
Trust is huge, especially when it comes to something like this.
Yeah.
You need to feel confident that the system is going to make the right decisions.
Right.
Especially in unexpected situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology itself.
Okay.
It's about how we integrate it into our lives and address those very real concerns that people have.
Okay, so we've got affordable EVs, self-driving cars. What else is Tesla doing to disrupt the automotive industry?
Right.
They're not exactly known for playing it safe.
Well, there's been talk about a potential shift in ownership models. Imagine something like Airbnb. But for cars, Tesla has hinted at a future where you might not even need to own a car.
Wow.
But rather just access one when you need it.
Interesting. So like a subscription service for transportation.
Exactly.
Okay, what would be the advantages of something like that?
Think about it.
All right.
Reduced costs, no more car payments, insurance, or worrying about maintenance.
Yeah.
It could be a game changer, especially in urban environments where owning a car can be a real hassle.
Sure.
Plus, you'd have the flexibility to choose different vehicles depending on your needs.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
Yeah.
But what about people who actually enjoy owning their own car?
Right.
That sense of freedom and control that comes with having your own vehicle.
You're right. There's a segment of the population that values the convenience and control of personal ownership. They might have concerns about availability, cleanliness, or just the idea of sharing a car with strangers.
Yeah. So is this shared ownership model the future, or is it just a passing trend?
It's hard to say for sure.
Okay.
It's more likely that the market will evolve to accommodate both models.
Right.
Some people will embrace the flexibility of shared access, while others will stick with traditional ownership.
It all comes back to choice.
Oh, exactly.
Having different options that fit different lifestyles and needs.
And that's what makes this such a dynamic time for the automotive industry.
Yeah.
It's not just about building cars anymore. It's about understanding how people want to use them and providing a range of options to meet those needs.
So we've got affordable EVs, self-driving technology, new ownership models. It sounds like the automotive industry is on the verge of some pretty major changes.
Definitely.
And Tesla seems to be right at the forefront of a lot of these trends.
They definitely are. But it's not just Tesla making waves.
Oh, okay.
Traditional automakers are also innovating and investing heavily in their own electric vehicle lineups.
So it's a race to the finish line. Who can build the best EVs, capture the most market share, and ultimately define the future of transportation.
It's a competitive landscape, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that Tesla isn't just competing on price or features. They're building an entire ecosystem around their vehicles.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What do you mean by ecosystem?
Think about their supercharger network.
Okay.
Their over-the-air software updates. Their brand image.
Yeah.
It's all part of a bigger package that's designed to attract and retain customers. They're not just selling you a car. They're selling you a whole experience.
It's like they're creating their own world, isn't it?
Exactly.
And once you're in, it's hard to leave.
They're building a loyal following.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful asset in any industry.
All right, so we've got the affordable EVs, the competition heating up. What about self-driving cars? How close are we to actually seeing those on the roads in a meaningful way?
Well, the technology is advancing rapidly.
Okay.
But there are still hurdles to overcome.
Yeah.
Remember those safety concerns we talked about? There's a lot of testing and validation that needs to happen before self-driving cars become commonplace.
And regulations. I imagine there are a lot of legal and ethical considerations to work through.
Absolutely. Governments are still figuring out how to regulate this technology, how to ensure safety, how to address liability in case of accidents.
Sure.
It's a complex process.
It sounds like we're still in the early stages, even though it feels like self-driving cars have been just around the corner for years now.
It's a classic case of hype exceeding reality.
Yeah.
The technology is promising, but it's taking longer to mature than some initially predicted.
So patience is key.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And realistic expectations. We shouldn't expect self-driving cars to magically appear overnight.
Right.
It's going to be a gradual rollout with lots of testing and fine-tuning along the way.
Speaking of gradual rollouts, what about that shared ownership model?
Right.
Any signs of that gaining traction?
We're seeing some interesting developments there. Car-sharing services are popping up in major cities, and some companies are experimenting with subscription models for vehicles.
So the seeds are being planted.
Exactly.
Okay.
But as we discussed earlier, it's unlikely to completely replace traditional ownership.
Yeah.
It's more likely to become another option in the mix, catering to a specific segment of the market.
It all comes back to choice, doesn't it?
That's the beauty of innovation.
Yeah.
It creates new possibilities and empowers consumers to choose what works best for them.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Affordable EVs, self-driving cars, shared ownership.
Right.
It's clear that the automotive industry is in a state of flux.
It is.
What does it all mean? What should our listeners be paying attention to as these trends continue to unfold?
The key takeaway is that the future of mobility is evolving rapidly. And as with any major technological shift, there will be winners and losers.
So buckle up.
Exactly. The ride might get bumpy, but it's going to be an exciting one.
It's definitely a lot to wrap our heads around. But you've done a great job of breaking it down and making it understandable.
Well, that's what we're here for, to explore these complex topics and make sense of the ever-changing world of technology.
Speaking of making sense of things.
Right.
There's one more piece of this puzzle that we haven't touched on yet.
Okay.
Tesla's ambitious plans aren't just about technology and market share.
Right.
They're also about navigating a complex political landscape and addressing societal concerns.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
The success of these technologies depends not just on engineering breakthroughs, but also on how they're integrated into society and how they impact people's lives.
And that's a whole other deep dive, isn't it? Maybe we can explore that in more detail later.
Yeah.
But first, let's shift gears and take a closer look at how some of these changes are already playing out in the real world.
Right. Sounds good. All right. So let's talk real-world examples.
Okay.
Remember how we discussed Tesla's push for affordability? Well, they've been rolling out some pretty aggressive promotions lately.
Yeah.
Discounts and incentives to try and capture market share.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those ads everywhere. Seems like they're really going for it.
Yeah.
But can they keep slashing prices without hurting their bottom line? Is that sustainable in the long run?
That's a question a lot of analysts are asking.
Okay.
It's a bit of a tightrope walk for Tesla.
Right.
They need to lure in those buyers, but also keep the company financially healthy.
Yeah.
And a lot depends on external factors, too, like interest rate.
Okay.
Remember those recent Fed cuts we mentioned? Lower interest rates make it easier for people to finance a new car,
Right.
which could boost sales across the entire industry.
Interesting. So wouldn't lower interest rates also help Tesla's competitors?
Exactly.
It's not like they have the market cornered on financing deals, right?
It's not a solo game.
Okay.
Traditional automakers are also pouring resources into their electric vehicle programs and ramping up production.
So it's a race to the top. Who can build the best EVs, offer the best deals, and ultimately convince consumers to make the switch?
There's definitely a competitive edge to it all.
Yeah.
But Tesla's doing something interesting here.
Yeah.
They're not just competing on price or tech specs. They're creating a whole Tesla ecosystem.
Okay, back up a sec. What does that mean, a Tesla ecosystem? I'm picturing something out of a nature documentary.
Think of it this way. Tesla has their supercharger network,
Right.
which is a huge advantage for long trips.
Yeah.
They're constantly pushing out over-the-air software updates to improve their cars. And there's a certain brand image, a coolness factor that comes with owning a Tesla.
Okay.
They're not just selling you a vehicle, it's an experience.
Okay, so it's like once you're in the Tesla world, you're kind of hooked. Makes sense why they have such devoted fans.
Spot on. That kind of brand loyalty is incredibly valuable.
Right.
Now let's bring this back to self-driving cars.
Okay.
How close are we to actually seeing those on the road in a meaningful way?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Are we talking years, decades? Or is it still science fiction?
The tech itself is evolving at an incredible pace.
Okay.
But there are still those hurdles we discussed.
Right.
Safety being the biggest one. Lots of testing, real-world validation is needed before we see widespread adoption.
And what about the legal side of things? I imagine there are tons of regulations and ethical debates to sort out before we're all cruising around in robot cars.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Governments are still grappling with how to regulate this tech.
Yeah.
How to ensure safety and what happens when things go wrong, liability and accidents and all that.
Right.
It's a complex landscape.
It sounds like we're still in the early stages.
Yeah.
Even though self-driving cars have been hyped up for so long, kind of like flying cars, always just out of reach.
That's a great comparison.
Yeah.
It's a classic case of over-promising and under-delivering.
Okay.
The potential is huge, but it's taking longer to become reality than some folks predicted.
So patience is key, along with a healthy dose of skepticism about those super optimistic timelines we sometimes hear.
Exactly. We need realistic expectations.
Right.
This isn't going to happen overnight. It'll be a gradual rollout with lots of testing and refining along the way.
Okay.
Now, what about that shared ownership model?
Right.
Any updates on that front? Are people embracing the idea of car subscriptions?
Well, we're seeing some interesting developments there.
Okay.
Car sharing services are popping up in cities all over the place. And a few companies are testing out those subscription models.
Right.
So it's definitely gaining some traction.
Right. But as we discussed, it's unlikely to completely replace traditional ownership.
Yeah.
It'll probably become just another option in the mix, catering to a specific type of consumer.
So more choices for everyone, which I guess is a good thing.
Absolutely. The more options, the better.
Yeah.
It allows people to choose the model that best suits their lifestyle and their needs. And that's what's so exciting about all this.
Right.
The automotive industry is transforming before our eyes, and it's going to be fascinating to see what the future holds.
Okay, so big picture time. We've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
Tesla's ambitious plans, the rise of electric vehicles, the potential of self-driving cars, new ownership models. What does it all mean? What's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
The future of mobility is changing, and it's changing fast.
Okay.
The way we get around is going to look very different in the years to come.
Right.
And with any big technological shift, there will be winners and losers.
Okay.
So buckle up.
Buckle up. I love it. It sounds like the ride might get a little bumpy, but it's going to be exciting to see where it takes us.
Definitely.
Thanks for helping us navigate this complex and ever-changing landscape.
My pleasure. Always happy to chat about all things tech.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore.
Okay.
Tesla's ambitions go beyond just building cool cars and disrupting the industry.
Right.
They're also navigating a complex political landscape and trying to address some very real societal concerns.
That's an important point.
Yeah.
The success of these technologies doesn't just depend on engineering breakthroughs, it also hinges on how they fit into society and affect people's lives.
And that brings us to the question of ethics. How do we ensure that these advancements are used responsibly and benefit everyone, not just a select few?
That's a big question, and one that we're still grappling with as a society.
Yeah.
We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of these technologies.
Right. We need to think about things like job displacement, data privacy, and the potential for these technologies to exacerbate existing inequality.
Exactly. It's not enough to just focus on the cool factor or the economic benefits.
Right.
We need to consider the broader societal implications as well.
So how do we do that?
Right.
How do we ensure that these advancements are used for good?
Well, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
By understanding the potential impacts of these technologies, we can start to make more informed decisions about their development and deployment.
Right. We need to be having these conversations now before these technologies become so ingrained in our lives that it's too late to course correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to be proactive, not reactive.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from Tesla's ambitious plans to the broader implications of technological advancements. It's clear that the future of mobility is going to be fascinating and full of challenges.
Yeah.
But by having these conversations, by being aware of the potential benefits and risks,
Right.
we can help shape a future where technology is used to create a more equitable and sustainable world.
It all comes back to this idea of conscious consumption. We get to choose how we engage with these technologies and how they impact our lives.
So we're not just passively along for the ride.
Yeah.
We can actually steer the direction of the industry by making informed choices.
Exactly. By staying informed, asking questions, and being mindful of the broader implications of our transportation choices, we have a real impact.
That's empowering. It's not just about what Tesla or other companies are doing. It's about how we as individuals participate in shaping this technological revolution.
It's a collective effort. And as technology keeps advancing at this incredible pace, it's even more crucial to be aware of the potential benefits and risks, to make choices that align with our values.
All right, so final thoughts for our listeners today. What should they be thinking about as they see these trends unfolding?
Well, I think the biggest thing is simply to pay attention. The automotive industry is in a state of flux, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how it all plays out.
Any specific areas you think people should be keeping an eye on?
Well, for starters, keep an eye on how those affordability strategies actually work out. Do those discounts erode brand value, or is it a clever way to gain market share?
Right.
And what about the competition? How are traditional automakers responding to Tesla's moves?
Good points. It's not a one-horse race by any means.
Right. And then there's the whole self-driving landscape. How quickly are those safety concerns being addressed? What kind of regulations are being put in place?
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, how are people reacting to the idea of giving up control behind the wheel?
It's a lot to wrap our heads around, but you've done a great job of breaking it all down for us today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
And for all of you listening, thanks for tuning in to Byte-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.